All right. Hi, and welcome to the Kansas City Beacons, Kansas City, Kansas Board of Public Utilities Candidate Forum. We want to thank the community and the candidates for joining us tonight. My name is Gary Enrique Bradley Lopez. Last week, was the Community Engagement Bureau Manager for the Kansas City Beacon. Today, I join you all as a concerned citizen and someone that pays a BPU bill. And I will be your moderator tonight. So joining us tonight on our questioning panel, we have Josh Merchant, the Kansas City Beacon's local government reporter, and Ms. Shawn, a co-chair for Churches United for Justice here in Kansas City, Kansas. Before we get started, I would like to extend a thank you to those who make it possible for our newsroom to continue thriving. So as a nonprofit news organization, what we do is not possible without the support from our community. And that means everyone that helps making a difference. That's including the candidates that are participating tonight, those that are here watching the forum, those that that share financial support, and community partners like Churches United for Justice that help us create this space so that we can share this space together and allow candidates and communities to have conversation with one another. So I'd like to also take a moment to share our appreciation for those that support us here at the Kansas City Beacon, which include Reach Healthcare Foundation and Health Forward Foundation. Their support makes events like this possible, and many more of our community engagement efforts here possible. As the Kansas City Independent Newsroom, this event is also possible by our members, and we thank you. So with that being said, let's get this forum started. So Election Day is around the corner. Wyandotte County voters will be making a crucial vote on who serves on the Board of Public Utilities. All candidates for this position were invited to attend this forum that include District 1, District 2, and at-large District 1. Candidates, am I right? Shake your head if I'm right.
No, District 3.
That's what I thought. That's why I thought I'd check in. District 1, District 3, and at-large District 1. Joining us tonight, we have Stevie Wakes for District 1, Cece Harlan and Rose Mulvaney for the at-large position, and Brett Parker and Jeff Bryant for District 30. The panelists have all prepared questions that they will be asking the candidates, 2 to 3 questions. But those that are out there in the community, those that are out there watching us on Facebook Live and on Zoom, please add your comments or please add your questions in the chat. I mean, you can also add your comments. We want to create an active discussion in our network. So please add your comments, any questions. We have community engagement representatives and also people from Churches United for Justice that are looking at these questions, and we will be looking through to see what questions we haven't asked or aren't going to ask that we think would be great for our candidates to answer. So with that being said, all candidates were asked to prepare a 1-minute opening statement, and they will also get 2 minutes for any of the questions. So with that being said, we will go ahead and start, and we will start with Cece Harlan. Cece, are you mute? There we go.
Really, Gary?
Go ahead.
My name is Cece Mank. Most people call me Cece. I'm on the ballot as Cece Harlan, which is my maiden name. I'm running because I feel like we don't have the representation on the board that actually represents the people who have to struggle to pay their bills at some point in time. I'm not calling anybody out or anything like that. I'm just saying that I feel like that we don't have that representation on the board. I attend the meetings. I'm active in the community, and if you have an issue with your bill, I will go with you to BPU or to the meetings and speak for you. That's about it here.
Thank you, Cece. We'll go ahead and go with Rose Mulvaney.
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate it. I'd like to thank the Kansas City Beacon and the Churches United for Justice for the invitation to tonight's forum. I love to have a BPU only forum, so thank you. This is our second in a row, so thank you guys for putting this together. My husband and I were both born and raised here in KCK and have lived virtually our entire lives here. I am a utility attorney by day. I am in the communication space, and I'm looking for your vote on November 7th to be re-elected for a second term. I'm completing my initial term right now. And a couple of things that I have been able to accomplish while on the board during my first term were I suggested and voted in favor of reallocating $250,000 in utility assistance funds to our residents in the 2020 or 2023 budget cycle. Vote for me.
Thank you, Rose. We'll now go with Stevie.
Thank you, Gary. To Kansas City Beacon and to Churches United, I want to thank you for this opportunity to share. Let me share with you that I am not from Kansas City. I was born in Topeka, Kansas. However, I moved here, got married here, and raised my family here. I've been a pastor for 35 years. I've also worked as served as my neighborhood association president of the NAACP. And again, I've taught Spanish in high school for about 10 years and been pastor here for about 35 years. Right now, I currently work for the district attorney of Wyandotte County. So my life of service is well documented. I really see some things. I was asked by outgoing member Bob Mylan, who made sure that we've had one of the best utilities in the nation here in Kansas City, Kansas with BPU. There are some concerns that many of us share, the lack of communication between the BPU and the unified government for collaboration and accountability. And then also we're looking at improved efficiencies because we pay for the water and electric utilities of the unified government where I work. So I like to see us be more efficient and not waste in that area. Also, I'd like to see the pilot removed from our bills.
I appreciate it. Your time's up.
Oh, thank you.
Your time's up, Stevie.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we're gonna go now with Jeff Bryant.
My name is Jeff Bryant, and I'm honored to be your current 3rd District representative. My wife and I are proud to have raised a family in our hometown. As a lifelong resident, I understand the unique issues and concerns that impact our city. All of us count on our utility for reliable power and safe water. We know these come with a cost, but we want it to be fair and reasonable. For over 40 years, I've worked at Plastic Packaging, which is in my district. Being a cost analyst has taught me how to make a business work for the people. As your board member, I've been able to help guide important changes at our utility. We stopped the release of pollutants from our coal plant, substantially increase our renewable energies, and improve the reliability of our systems. But I want more for us. I ask for your continued support as we work together to make our city a place that we are proud to call home.
Thank you. And now I'll pass it on to Brett.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking part in this forum tonight. I'm really grateful to the Beacon and Churches United for Justice for putting it on, and for all of you for taking some time in your evening to come and attend this and learn more about this election. In my day job, I am an organizer, an advocate, and a representative for Kansas teachers for Kansas NEA, the teachers union. I'm looking to bring those same skills to the Board of Public Utilities and really be a voice for you, the ratepayers. In my previous service, I have served in the Kansas legislature for 5 years, where I was highly focused on cost of living issues, whether eliminating the food sales tax, fighting for affordable health insurance, or just making sure that generally in our tax base that working Kansans didn't have to carry a disproportionate share of the load. I want to bring those same values to the board and really fight to keep rates as low as possible and be an advocate for you as a ratepayer.
Thank you. I appreciate the intros. Now I'm going to pass it over to Josh Merchant, who is our local government reporter here at the Kansas City Beacon.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. So my first question is, excuse the car. Coal power constitutes 39% of the BPU's power generation, much of it produced at the Nearman coal plant. Given the impact on air quality and climate change, what role do you see for coal power in the near term and long-term future?
Thank you. I'm going to pass that question on to Rose.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the question, Josh. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Nearman plant has a retirement date. It's not anywhere near, but it has a retirement date. One of the things that the process the utility is going through is its integrated resource platform, right? So it's integrated resource policy, excuse me. And that's something that hasn't been visited, I think, in at least 3 years. and lots have changed, right? And the utility has been pretty darn good in looking at renewable energy sources and actually utilizing renewable energy sources. They are higher than what is required in the state of Kansas. They are higher than what is required at the federal level. They beat any of the regional utilities in that space today. I believe that BPU has, Jeff's going to have to keep me honest on this, it's 48%, I believe, of renewable energy that we use today. We're moving toward it, but there are challenges that are there, right? And unless and until we can have the storage that we need for some of the renewable power sources that we can actually utilize, right? We just can't turn off a switch. We can't turn off a coal plant today. All of us want that. Jeff has spoken about some of the things we've worked on, you know, with respect to working on EPA regulations and air pollutants and things like that. We're trying to do what's best for this community. But right now, without a sustainable, scalable replacement, that coal plant's going to be in place until we get those things in place on a national scale, but also on a local scale as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Rose. I'm going to pass it over to Stevie.
Unmute myself. Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly with Rose Mulvaney Henry. I like to see the retirement of the Nearman plant, but it cannot happen now. There must be a path forward. And I think it's going to be very important that we have a general manager in place that will ascertain that we are looking to move in that direction. We cannot remain where we are because where we are is not satisfactory to what is necessary for our community, particularly those of us who live near those toxic waste that or those toxic things that emanate from the plant. So it's very important that we move forward. And I think that because we know that it's going to have to happen in the future, we should start moving to in that direction as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now pass it over to Jeff.
Since first being elected, I've supported every renewable energy proposal brought forth by staff. This has allowed us to grow our sustainable energies from around 17% to nearly 50%, 48 to be exact, of our total portfolio. Where coal long held the top spot as an energy source for the BPU, that has now changed to wind, which represents 41% of the BPU's energy sources. We can see the retirement of the Nearman coal plant on the horizon. It's imperative that the BPU continues to ensure that we have an affordable and reliable base load energy to power our homes and businesses. Our Nearman resource is so important to the everyday life of Kansas City, Kansas residents that I supported the addition of EPA-approved quality systems that capture the emissions that used to escape from the plant. Soon we will need to determine the future of energy production for our city, and it's important that we weigh the costs associated with each option. With the cost of transmission continuing to rise, it's important to create new production within our city limits. This will also keep those jobs held by people paying taxes into our city.
Thank you, Jeff. I'll now pass it over to Brett.
Thank you, Gary. I echo a lot of the comments that have been said so far. You know, we're at this unique time where the cost of renewables is coming down, maybe not as fast as we would like to see. I believe it was Rose who referenced storage being key. That's really going to be a key factor moving forward, is how are we able to store that energy so that we don't suffer, you know, power outages at peak usage. So we have to have a really keen eye on that. I think there's also one really key thing to focus on finding a responsible and hopefully, you know, as soon as cost-effective retirement date for that plant is to be able to plan around the people who work there, the staff who are members of our community. We want them to be able to have a timeline that they can see. We want to have the opportunity for training folks up for other roles within the utility if possible. What we don't want to do is delay a decision and a plan until it's too late, or we have to make a more rapid decision than we would like just because we're losing money on outdated technology. And so I'd echo a lot of the comments that have been said about, what we need now is a responsible retirement date as soon as it is feasible, but certainly, not irresponsibly so.
Thank you, and I'll let Cece finish off.
So I hear BPU staff and the board saying that they're phasing out the coal plant, and supposedly they buy a lot of their energy from buy and produce a lot of their energy through wind or whatever. But I say that BPU should invest into the people who invested in them and get solar panels for residents, because it also produces energy back out for use and things like that. So I'm just saying, for the people who struggle to pay their light bills and things like that, that would also take some of the usage from the coal plant if you have solar panels and you're producing a lot of your own energy. Just idea.
Thank you. I'm going to pass the next question off to Ms. Shawn, but I'm going to first say, can we have everyone mute if you are not answering a question or asking a question? And next, those that are in the Zoom, those that are on the Facebook Live, please drop your questions. We are, this is an opportunity for you as a concerned community member, person paying your BPU bill, to let these candidates know what type of questions and concerns matter to you. And so please take this opportunity to ask any questions, and we will be sharing those with the candidates. So with that being said, I'll pass it on to Ms. Shawn. And Ms. Shawn, please feel free to share more about your organization if you'd like.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, panelists, for joining us tonight. I am co-president of Churches United for Justice. We were established in August 2021. We currently have 17 member churches and over 500 members who participate in various research efforts to provide information and data to work with the community to tackle issues such as gun violence. And we've got a signed memorandum of agreement for the GVI Gun Violence Intervention Program. And that study is going to begin soon. We have an elder care agreement that we have worked with the unified government to focus on efforts to get improved housing and things of that nature for the elderly in our area, as well as we're working to establish an affordable housing trust fund for those of us within our county who need assistance with continuing to live in their residence, to assist with property taxes, and to be able to purchase a home within the county that they wish to live and grow in, their family in. Okay, so candidates, my first question is, one of the burning issues that I hear all the time is the pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes. And if there are any efforts to eliminate the pilot without further increasing utility rates for the citizens of Wyandotte County.
And the first question will be going to Stevie.
Thank you. I have been advocating the large part of my candidacy has been to remove the pilot from the bill. As you know, it is not a BPU decision to do that. It takes the community to really tell their commissioners they don't want it. The commissioners are the ones that voted to put it on the BPU bill. All the BPU does is collect those taxes. So it's going to be really important that we work with commissioners. That is why I talked about the communication between and collaboration between the BPU and the unified government, because the BPU, there's no current board member right now that wants the pilot on your bill. But the unified government put this in action years ago, and now we say, take it off, remove it. We've been wanting it, but they haven't been meeting. That's why I talk about communication. So it's very important that we talk to our unified government commissioners to make sure that they move to remove the pilot from our bills. All I hear is the desire to see it happen, but they're wondering how they're going to get those funds that they've been receiving, those $1 million of funds that they received through the pilot. And so it is not our concern, but I do know that people have had their utilities cut off for not being able to pay their pilot's bill as in addition to their utility bills. So it's very important that it be removed for the sake of every community member. That is what I've been advocating for. Thank you.
Thank you, Stevie. I will now pass it over to Jeff.
It seems that everyone is aware of the pilot, but few really know what it is and why we have it. In my opinion, it's an alternate tax that should not be on our utility bills. It isn't unique to our city, as many others use a similar system to gather additional revenue. What is different is the amount that we are charged. In most cities, the amount is around 5%, but we have been stuck at 12% for far too long. I am in full support of reducing the pilot fee and removing it from the BPU bills. No one in our city should have their utilities disconnected because of failure to pay one of the city's various charges.
Thank you, Jeff. Pass it over to Brett.
Thanks, Gary. I'd imagine this is going to be one of the answers you get the most consensus on for the entire night. I'd agree with everything that Stevie and Jeff said. You know, this is not a BPU decision. I know it's a point of frustration for many folks. You know, Stevie did a great job of highlighting the need for collaboration with the unified government and advocacy to the folks who are able to make that decision. So I would certainly be an advocate for removing it from the bill. And work to collaborate with the unified government on that as well.
Thank you. I'll now pass it over to Cece.
So the pilot fee was voted on to the bill by the people. However, it came with a shutoff clause that was supposed to be, I think, 10 years at the longest. Now, what happened was at the unified government meeting this year, I heard the attorney for the unified government say that the charter had been long outdated, but they just keep changing the verbiage and keep charging the people. But just like I said at the last forum, until the people get up and demand that they remove the pilot from the fee, from the bill, they're not going to do so. But they also have to get up and ask BPU to remove the $44 and some change that they call an access fee off of their BPU bill. Because before the pilot bill, pilot fee is even printed on your bill, BPU charges you $44 and some change. Oh, they call it a customer fee now. It used to be an access charge, but it's customer fee now. There's a whole lot of junk fees on there, including the pilot fee. Everybody has become obsessed with the pilot fee. But there is about $100 worth of fees, including the pilot fee that comes on this bill before they even print your usage charges. So I just think that we ought to just be more attentive in demanding that they take all their junk fees off of here. I don't know exactly where the access fee goes. I don't know exactly where the pilot fee goes. And honestly, a lot of the community believes that it goes in their pockets.
Thank you. I'm now going to pass that over to Rose.
Thank you, Gary. I have been fortunate enough to sit on a pilot reduction task force that was put together by the mayor, and several community members have participated in it. Commissioner Bynum participated in it, and I participated on behalf of BPU. And one of the things that this task force has been able to accomplish is to we sought, and we now have at least achieved through standing committee at the UG, pilot relief, so a pilot exemption for some seniors in our community that are 65 or older, that have an income level of $37,750 or less, and or are disabled. And if it reaches the full commission and is approved by the full commission, which I do expect that it will be. Look at me, now I'm predicting the future with that budget process going on. But anyway, so we have got to the point where we've got some relief for some seniors. It's not enough. Pilot task force is not finished yet. The mayor has also, an ordinance has been passed to separate the percentages that can be collected. So residential customers can have a lesser pilot fee than other classes of customers. All not enough. I agree with what the other panelists said, though. We've got to separate these charges off of the BPU bill one way or another, because folks who are trying to manage their payments on a sometimes weekly basis, we can't do all of your utility bills on one and then all your UG charges on it, and we're going to cut off your lights because you couldn't pay your trash or your pilot, right? It doesn't make sense.
Thank you. So we've gotten some questions from the Zoom and Facebook. So I'll go ahead and read the one from our Zoom. Thank you to our community member that's out there in the Zoom. I won't share your name just because of transparent, or I guess, respect. But anyways, thank you so much for sending it in, and we appreciate it. Continue sending them in. Even if we don't answer them tonight, I will send them to the candidates so that they have them, and our journalists and team will be able to see them and know what kind of issues matter to community members. So this one says, BPU has consistently had a bad reputation for years. Complaints span from terrible customer service, poor transparency, expensive monthly bills, corrupt behavior, and unethical business practices. What will those of you running for that position do to address these issues? And the first person that will answer this one will be Jeff.
When I was first elected, my focus was on rebuilding the financial strength of the utility. Once I felt that had been stabilized, I turned my focus to improving the infrastructure in the 3rd District. During my time on the board, I've helped secure over $75 million in system improvements in my district, and there's more to come. I feel it is time to put more focus now on improving the customer service that the utility provides to the residents of our community. My belief is unparalleled personal service should be the goal for our utility, and I won't settle for anything less.
Thank you, Jeff. I'll pass it over to Brett.
Thanks, Gary. I think this is one of the issues I hear about the most from voters as I'm out chatting with them. And this is paramount. We are a public utility. We exist to serve the ratepayers. We exist to serve the community. Customer service should be at the top of our priority. If elected, I'll be one of 6 board members, but would certainly support moving more resources to customer service. But beyond that, I just want to say, as a representative on the board, I pride myself on being someone that residents can reach out to directly, that can email me, can call me, can know that if they bring an issue to me, that I will find them an answer and do the work to make sure that they get a solution to their problem. I was a Democrat in the Kansas legislature. When you serve in the super minority, one of the biggest impacts you can have for your constituents is constituent service. It is running down the answer to every question they have. It's connecting them with the people who can answer them. It's being an advocate for them at all times. So I'd certainly support any efforts to improve customer service as board policy, absolutely. But on top of that, as a board member, I want voters to know that I would be someone who would be an advocate for them and someone they can reach out directly to if they hit walls and the other efforts to get their problem solved.
Thank you, Brett. I'll pass it over to Cece.
I'm already unmuted. So everybody already knows, well, anybody who knows me already knows that I just usually put everything in the public, because I feel like that anything that takes place at RBPU or at the unified government should be a public issue and not a private issue. They have way too many secrets going on with our BPU and with our unified government that I feel like the people are privy to. I feel like I would be I already know that the first thing I would advocate is for BPU to have their meetings publicized on the UGTV. It's almost as if they fight us when we ask for their meetings to be publicized. Now that they have them on Zoom now and things like that, but all the rest of the meetings are publicized on UGTV, and I feel like BPU should be up there as well, because everybody cannot make it to the meetings.
Thank you, Cece. Rose?
Thank you. I love to hear candidates who are running for the first time. That does not include Cece. Cece, we know you're a candidate that's run before. Look, BPU has a transparency problem. And as I've sat on this board for over 3 years, I can attest to the fact that BPU has a transparency problem. Said it at a forum on Saturday, and I'll say it here, and I'll continue to say it. It isn't just a transparency problem with our public. It's a transparency problem with us as a board. And I don't disagree that BPU's reputation it's not good in this community. And that's unfortunate, because this is a very valuable asset for our community to have. And we should treat it as such, but we should treat our customers the same way. Unparalleled customer service is exactly what every customer service company or every customer service industry company should seek. BPU is far from that, unfortunately. And I sat in a meeting last summer and listened to other board members comment that, you know, customer service is something that we're trying to focus on. You know, I've been here over 3 years. I've seen some incremental improvements. I hope that we see further improvements in the customer service realm. It's not good enough. We don't have good communication with the public either. And that's something that the board itself put at the very top of its strategic priorities late last year. So we have to continue to be better.
Thank you. And I believe we're ending it with Stevie.
Thank you again. As you know, I've been in the community and I plan to remain in the community. Thank you, Brett Parker, for sharing ideas that I concur with. It's very important that, as I say again, communication and collaboration with the unified government. If the citizens own the utility, then the unified government should definitely be making sure there's oversight, not necessarily trying to micromanage, but we should know that every commissioner should be able to answer every question that BPU has, because we report to the unified government. So it's very important that that communication line stays open, that there's oversight as well as there's accountability. It's very important that people know exactly what's going on with the BPU and not have to wonder what's happening. The policies that they have in place now, including the reconnect fees and the deposits, those fees have been deemed as discriminatory, and we need to really review those things, and everyone should know about those policies, know how they're, especially the board, and the board should be able to review those policies and determine how they should be changed for the betterment of the citizens of Wyandotte County who own the public utility. And I'll remain in that vein throughout my candidacy as well as throughout the time that I serve on the board, Lord willing. Thank you.
Thank you, Stevie. I will now pass it on to Josh to ask the next question.
Thank you, Gary. So my next question is, the BPU has been sued by 5 different employees in the past 2 years over alleged racial discrimination in a hostile workplace. Do you think that the BPU has a racist problem? And is there anything that you would do to improve the workplace culture?
The first person to answer this one will be Brett.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Josh. You know, I can't speak to the particulars of that, but I will just say in my day job, my job is to help staff organize for better workplace cultures and to organize for themselves. And so as a board member, whether it's racial discrimination, whether it is safe working conditions, or any other mistreatment of workers, I would be a board member who is constantly looking out for the great people that we employ in our city who are doing this critical work for our citizens. So I would always be focused on making the BPU the best place to work possible. It doesn't mean we'd always agree, but just like on the customer service side, want to be a board member who employees can reach out to with any issues and get direct answers from. Certainly racial discrimination has no place within the BPU workplace. So if any issues were raised to me, I would take them seriously and make sure that they were addressed. But in general, I want to be a board member who employees feel like they can reach out to and we'll always be looking to make BPU one of the best places to work in our community.
Thank you. I'll pass it on to Cece.
Well, considering that the general manager, Bill Johnson, is a felon for wrongful termination of a veteran who had to go off on duty, and this happened in like 2014. It is an open case. Y'all can Google it, Snyder versus the Unified Government and BPU. I would say that this practice of illegal firing and things like that, whether it's about race or whatever it is definitely already been an issue with BPU for wrongfully firing veterans. So I don't think it would go so far to say that they would discriminate on whoever for whatever reason. And yes, I do think there needs to be something done since there's a issue with the general manager. I mean, it starts at the top there. If he's already been doing it, then I think you need to consider getting rid of the general manager or changing some practices that he has.
Thank you, Cece. I'll pass it over to Rose.
Thanks. I appreciate the question. I think it will. I think it will surprise folks that we have to allow the legal process to take its course with respect to all of these actions. My personal opinion is that BPU has certainly had employment practice challenges. And I personally would welcome an outside third party to perhaps review those. And I'm not sure that will necessarily be accomplished with respect to any of the pending litigation. So I guess that's my answer.
Thank you, Rose. Stevie?
Yes, sir. I concur with much of what's been said, particularly by those who say that this is not something that we as a board could in our power tolerate. We have to definitely speak out against any type of discrimination, whether it shows itself with BPU or within any entity of which we are part, with our hiring, firing, amen, or any practice that we oversee as board members. I think it's very important. It's going to be very important that during our orientation, if we're elected, that we make sure that we review the charter ordinance that we have with the unified government, the city, make sure that we review those policies, that ordinance, to find out what we have the power to do and what we don't have the power to do. But as members of the board, we can certainly make sure that it didn't happen as far as our power is concerned.
Thank you. I'll pass it over to Jeff.
Discrimination of any type is unacceptable. Kansas City, Kansas, in my opinion, is the melting pot of the Midwest. We need to embrace our differences and realize that that's what makes our city so unique. And only by understanding each other are we going to move this city forward in the future.
Thank you, Jeff. I believe everyone has answered that question. So with that being said, I'm gonna pass it over to Ms. Shawn.
Thank you. What protections are in place or might you put in place for BPU customers so that we will not have our electricity turned off or slowed down due to impacts of other utility companies, like the lack of due diligence that occurred in February of 2021?
Thank you. Great question. CC, that goes to you first.
I'm not sure what protections I will put in place for that, but I just know that nobody's lights or gas should be, lights or utilities, period, should be cut off, especially when they own the utility. I'm sorry, but if this public owns the utility, then y'all shouldn't be able, BPU should not be able to cut off the owner's lights. There should be some other type of remedy in place for you to collect money at this utility. But it has been admitted that the people own the utility. That's why it's called a public utility. And I just don't understand how you can shut off the owner's lights to the utility. And I think that I would definitely advocate that they come up with a different remedy as to collect funds from the people who own the utility.
Thank you, Cece. Rose?
Yeah, if we're talking about February 2021 specifically, that was the extreme cold snap. And so BPU territory actually, I believe, went through rolling brownouts. I don't know that we blacked out any customer. I don't hold me to that because we may have. But you know, we're part of the power grid, right? We're connected to Southwest Power Pool. A lot of in fact, every power company in a multiple state region belongs to that. What happened at that period of time in Kansas City, and I will give a shout out to the coal plant, because if we didn't have Nearman at that time, Kansas City, Kansas would have been dark, period, because there wasn't enough power on the grid to sustain our city without our own power generation. Jeff spoke to that a little bit earlier. But the policies, I mean, as part of the power grid, we could have been Texas, right? They're not part of a power grid. They're interconnected in their own state. So they're all within the state of Texas. And we all saw what happened there. And that was exponentially worse than what happened here in KCK. So being part of an interconnected grid, you know, some of this is about managing the power load. There wasn't anything different at that time that BPU could have done better, but I can assure you lessons were learned, and we see our folks, you know, come to, I mean, they were doing this stuff in real time at that point in time. And that's not going to be the last time that happens, unfortunately. And so from a policy perspective, BPU actually did a pretty darn good job during that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Pastor Stevie?
Thank you. I concur with Rose. I don't think we could have done anything better, but I think moving forward, because of the lessons that we learned, we can probably put in place some safeguards, particularly when we're looking at power grids in the future. I don't think much more can be done other than what was done. I think they did their best to accommodate, but I think we should really try to put safeguards in place, looking to the future as to where our power grid, how it serves our people. I think that's the best we can do. But right now, I don't know of anything better we can do, but looking forward, I'm sure we can probably find more efficient ways of handling.
Thank you, Pastor Stevie. Jeff?
So what happened in that February is a prime example of why it's so important that we have baseload generation within our city limits. That helps us prevent being dependent on power being brought in from outside sources at a higher cost and unpredictable cost. The other thing, which is a little bit aside from that, is getting the UG to remove their charges from the BPU bill and bill separately, so that at the end of the day, people are only responsible for their electric and their water, and they're not getting shut off because they weren't able to afford their trash payment.
Thank you, Jeff. Brett?
What happened in February 2021 is an example of the increasing extreme weather patterns we're facing, some of the climate challenges, and Rose was spot on. If we hadn't been able to generate our own power during that time, we would have been much worse spot. The flip side of that is we are also part of a whole system, right, that is made worse by continuing to burn fossil fuels. And so that sort of tension is what our board needs to hold. We need to make sure that we're doing right by our residents and our ratepayers as far as making sure that they're not seeing price spikes during those extreme times. But this is something that's going to have to be the responsibility of any utility moving forward is being prepared, being climate resilient, because what we saw in February of 2021 is not going to be the last time we see an extreme weather pattern. We're going to see hotter summers. We're going to see more intense storms. And I certainly think the BPU did a solid job in a tough time then, but the lesson moving forward is how do we be prepared, not just for similar incidents like that, but all of the other challenges that come from a more extreme climate. And that there's not one single solution to that, but we do need to make sure that the board is dedicated to looking ahead and making sure that the BPU is climate resilient.
Thank you, Brett. Cece, did you get a chance to answer this question?
I did, but I guess I didn't quite understand it correctly. So I was gonna address it at the end, so.
Okay, I'll let you do that then. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's see, I'm gonna go ahead. I have another question that was brought to us, sent to us from Amber Adams, and it said, we've heard a lot of aging residents say that they have trouble with rising housing costs and limited income, specifically high utility costs and limited income. How do you propose to get assistance, especially to our aging population who may or are considering moving out of Wyandotte County just to lower utility costs? And I will pass that over to Rose.
Thanks, Gary. Excellent question. Everybody knows that we just went through a rate hearing in June, and in July, the board voted to increase both the water and electric rates. I am on record. I voted against the rate increase, and in large part because our residents are hurting. I know this. We see it every single board meeting. I see it with every constituent that calls me with a problem. And, you know, the thing we did immediately after the rate increase, and I applaud the board for this, is we put in a mechanism to assist some of our most vulnerable population and our seniors, basically to match the utility rebate program on the UG side, to actually give them a rebate, at least a partial rebate, of the increases that are coming for their electric and water, which is great. It's not enough. You know, one thing, BPU, there are roughly 2,000 municipal utilities in this country. BPU is 48th in size on the list, okay? We do wield some power in the municipal power circles. And one of the things that I scratch my head on every day is why we don't have universal service for our utility costs for electric and water. We just don't have it. Not at the federal level, not at the state level. And we have all of that. You know, I told you guys I work in the communication space. We have all of that in the communication side. We've thrown billions of dollars at broadband, also another essential service in homes, right? Thrown it at telephones in the past, wireless phones, all of that stuff, where folks, you know, who qualify for it get a stipend. The fact that we haven't done that in the energy sector and in the water sector and the utility sector doesn't make any sense to me. And I believe that BPU, we go up to speak and lobby about things all the time. One of the things we ought to be doing is at least lobbying the state of Kansas to put, a universal service fund, an energy, an EUSF, instead of USF on the telephone side or the communication side, put in an energy, or a utility, universal service fund. That will go a long way in helping our residents who cannot meet their payments today. I'd love for us to take the alternative approach, and that is, okay, we can't raise rates higher than whatever X% portion of folks' income is, right? That stuff is wonderful, and I'd love to see it come into play. I don't know that we're at a point where we can do that right now. We also have to aggressively pursue state and federal funds that are out there and available to utilities like ours in a city like ours with the demographics that we have. That money is out there for the taking, and we have to aggressively pursue it.
Thank you, Rose. I'll pass it over to Stevie.
Thank you, Gary. Again, I believe that as Rose stated so eloquently, that people are hurting in Wyandotte County as a result the charges well, what it costs to live in Wyandotte County, dealing with taxes as well as the raise in rates of our utility bills. That's why I strongly advocate for the removal of the pilot from our utility bills, and strongly advocate for improved efficiencies with unified government, since we pay the water and electricity bills for the unified government. That's one way that I see that we can be more efficient, one way that we can save consumers money, particularly on their bills. Again, we need to review the reconnect fees and deposits, those particular policies. There are other customer service policies that we probably need to review as well, but I believe that customer service is very important. And those are the things that I will advocate for as a member of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Stevie. I'll pass it off to Jeff.
So Rose has already spoke about the low-income senior rebate program that we instituted immediately after the rate increase, which will give back a rebate for the rate increase for those that fall in that category. And the rate, our rate increase was the first one we had in 6 years. And, we were able to hold off longer than other utilities because we controlled our costs even during the recent volatile financial period that we've all been facing. Unfortunately, during the past few years, the unified government has applied a string of increases to the fees that they include on our utility bills. This has given customers the appearance that the utility has been raising its rates, even though they've remained the same for 6 years. I will continue to advocate for the UG to remove their charges from the BPU bill to create better transparency for all of our ratepayers.
Thank you, Jeff. Brett?
Thanks, Gary. It's a good thing I was muted, or else everyone would have heard me frantically circling on my notes when Rose mentioned federal and state aid, because I think that is a huge piece right now. We're at a unique opportunity where there are funds available, and we need to do everything in our power to go after every single one that we can for our community. I think Rose also mentioned lobbying in Topeka. My experience in public service before was as a state legislator. That is a comfortable experience for me. I am happy to spend time talking with folks in Topeka about how they can do better by Wyandotte County and BPU ratepayers specifically. I think there's also another issue here, which is how big of a burden are our lowest income folks carrying when it comes to paying rates. I had some conversations with one of our neighboring utilities, Water One, and some of their board members, and they have a graduated rate structure where the folks who use the least water pay the lowest rate. That would be a tremendous help for residents in our community if we could lift some of that burden, rather than giving a break to the biggest users, but to give a break to the folks who are living in their apartment or their home that they purchased. But the actual residents of the community are the ones that we need to be really prioritizing when it comes to protecting their finances and looking out for them. I think that's a structure we could look at both on the water and the electrical side to ease some of that burden.
Thank you. I'll now pass it over to Cece.
Mr. Brett, well, BPU, instead of lowering the rate for people who don't use enough water, they actually have a flat rate that they charge you. If you don't use enough, then they're just going to charge you a flat rate. So I would be in favor of that. I think that you should be rewarded for less usage. However, I'm going to reiterate the solar panel thing. If we have citizens that are having a hard time paying their bills, I think that BPU, they say that they give money to United Way and other places that help and assist their customers or owners with their BPU bill. When in fact, if they actually, and we don't know this to be true, we can only go off their word. But if you were putting solar panels on the elderly's houses and stuff like that would be something tangible that we could actually see. And we also know that that is assisting with their bill because it also creates energy that BPU can then use and do whatever they want to do with it. It puts it back off into the atmosphere. But I'm in favor of anything that brings down our bill, including these salaries, 7 people getting $476,000 in raises in 1 year, like things like that. And then you expect us to believe that you want to raise our rates for infrastructure when the pilot fee is set up for things like that. And BPU has resources like attorneys that could take to the unified government and say, hey, you're charging the people a pilot fee. One of the letters in there says infrastructure and says you want money for infrastructure, make the UG pay for that because they're collecting money for that.
Thank you, Cece. I believe everyone got the right to answer that question. So Ms. Shawn, I'm going to pass it over to you to ask the next question. Then we'll have a last one from Josh. We'll do some conclusions. I appreciate everyone that's sending questions and stuff in the comment and in the chat. I will be reading some out loud just so that candidates hear what type of concerns community members care about. And again, I'll send it out. And please use your socials and platforms to answer these questions from community members. Ms. Shawn?
Thank you. Now, we've heard that there are transparency issues within BPU. And some of this may have been answered, but I want to make sure that it's clearly understood because we have some more people that have joined us. What significant improvement efforts, aside from what's going to, we hope will pass for the seniors, is BPU doing to ensure customers can afford services? Are there any other programs that are in the pipeline? And is it a balancing act between the Unified Government Commission and BPU to determine the rates, or is it going to be another item where that's totally just unified government and the commission?
All right, Stevie.
Thank you. Now let's be clear about the rates. The electric and water rates are determined by the Board of Public Utilities. We approve or disapprove that by vote. And on the last vote, as you heard, the candidates tell you what their vote was regarding the rate increase, and it's their responsibility to tell you why they voted for or against it. But that is a BPU thing. However, the pilot has nothing to do with the Board of Public Utilities. That is a unified government charge that your commissioners have allowed to be added to your bill, and they have the power to remove it. It's a part of our charter. It's very important that we hold unified government accountable for those charges. But as far as the rates are concerned, as Jeff so eloquently stated, the BPU has not raised those rates in 6 years. However, that they need to do it now, according to them, according to our general manager, he said that it was important. I'm not sure. That's according to his justification. Now, if you look at what he stated in his justification, was that it had a lot to do with the credit rating in order for them to be able to borrow the money to make sure that our infrastructure stayed in place. So listen very carefully to those two different charges. You have a UG charges on your bill, and you have the pilot, which is a UG charge, as well as the usage, the other fees that you have associated with your BPU bill. And they have separated that now on your bill, so you can determine what those two charges are. But please do not charge the BPU for the unified government charges and the pilot on your bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Stevie. I'll pass it over to Jeff.
So Stevie was correct in that the BPU has been shouldered with collecting fees for the UG. You know, one of the most eye-opening statistics that I learned about our city is that the jobs in Kansas City, Kansas are some of the highest paying in the state of Kansas. At the same time, our average income per household is one of the lowest in the state. This tells me that too many of those good paying jobs are held by people living outside of our city. The utility rates at the BPU fall in the middle of all the utilities in our state. The difference in our bills comes from those additional UG charges that I believe adamantly that they need to be removed from our utility bills. Too many residents struggle to pay these extra fees that have nothing to do with their water and electricity. No one should be subject to be shutting off because of not paying their trash or the pilot or their stormwater fees.
Thank you, Jeff. Brett?
Thanks, Gary. I'm going to be a broken record about this, but every federal and state aid dollar that we don't collect is a dollar that we have to collect in people's rates. So every dollar that we go out and capture that we are not already is a dollar we could potentially lower someone's rate or push off the next rate increase. We need to do that energetically, and we need to do it as if, you know, folks' ability to pay their bills depends on it, because it does. Not being on the current board, I don't know if there are current things in the pipeline for them, but I will come back to, I think our rate structure could be improved so that it lessens the burden on some of our lower income folks and our fixed income folks. Beyond that, I do think there's transparency was brought up, and I think that as board members, we need to be respectful of our staff. We need to have the best staff, but ultimately the buck stops with the board. And so it's on us with all of these issues to be the ones who ask tough questions. And if there are innovative ideas that aren't being considered by staff, it's on us to find them and to bring them up. Again, that's not disrespectful to staff. It's a hard role to serve on a board. You have staff who do this full time, and as board members, you know, we're members of the community with our own jobs, or as potential board members, I suppose, in my case. But really, we have to take that responsibility seriously. I've served on nonprofit boards. I've served, on committees in the legislature, and that's a serious role. And you need to always be mindful of the folks that you're representing. We want to have great staff. We want to make it a great place to work, but we also need to be mindful of the fact that the buck stops with us if we are elected, and that it's our job to represent the ratepayers and our residents and our community members and make sure that their needs are being addressed.
Thank you, Brett. I'll now pass it over to Cece.
So let me correct something that was said earlier. Not just the rates were raised, the access charges were raised, or the access electrical one was raised from $22 to $24. So, but I want to say this, I had a community member bring me 18 months worth of her BPU bills. And for September 1st bill of 2022, her bill was $99 and some change. The next bill, which was this year on September the 1st, or around that time, her next bill a year later was $305. And all of those were not UG issues or anything. Her usage had not gone up, and I know how to scrutinize a bill. I had no answers for her, so I had to take her to the board meeting on Wednesday, the next Wednesday, to ask them what was the difference in her bill and why the difference in charges, because they constantly say there has been no rate raises and things like that. However, your bill is never consistent. I've never had a consistent BPU bill, and I've never heard of anyone saying they had a consistent BPU bill. So transparency is definitely a big issue. But also, I think an audit should be done to ensure that all residents are paying the same rate charges, the same fees, the same everything, because I've had issues with different areas of Wyandotte County paying less than other areas of Wyandotte County. And I think that there needs to be transparency in that area as well.
Thank you, Cece. Rose?
Thank you. You know, the question was whether or not there are any significant, improvements coming downtown the pipe that we're aware of. We talked about two of them tonight, right? One of them is the BPU utility rebate program that was, approved by the board shortly after the rate increase was also approved by the board. And then, of course, the pilot relief through the pilot task force, which is going to come to some residents as well. In addition to that, one of the things we're going to undertake as a policy review committee, there's a subcommittee of the BPU board, the policy review committee, that is going to take up the customer service policies in the coming weeks. And that will take multiple meetings to get through, but connection fees were brought up tonight, reconnection fees, disconnection fees. Nobody brought up late payment charges, but I'll go ahead and throw that in there along with deposits and how those are applied. I mean, all of these charges in and of themselves, and I've looked at the line items on BPU's budget, you all should too, as to what those fees add up to. It's a lot of money. It's in the millions of dollars, right? And the question is, can BPU survive without some of those fees? A lot of folks call them regressive. I agree, they are regressive. They wind up disproportionately hurting our customers who are most vulnerable. And so that is something the board needs to take up and take up very, very soon in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. So now, Josh, I'll pass it over to you for one last question.
This one is, should the BPU help customers pay for energy efficiency upgrades that could bring down their energy bills? For example, subsidizing insulation upgrades, reimbursing costs for smart thermostats, LED light bulbs. Are there any ideas that you have there about improving energy efficiency for customers?
Jeff?
So, the utility has had multiple programs in the past for this, and I'm sure that they'll come again. Most of these there have been grants that we have went out and got and secured those and used those for our customers. We had the heat pump rebate program. For a while, we had a very nice rebate program that was used for home improvements, and it was a no interest loans that people could go out and they could do improvements on their houses, and it would just be paid back through their utility bill. And unfortunately, the state was still overseeing that, and then they came in part of the way through the program and took the rest of the funds away from us. So all of these programs are ones that we've asked staff to look for more and more opportunities. Our staff has been very good. Our economic development group, they'll go to events like Turner Days and places like that, and they hand out LED light bulbs to help people. They'll do things like that. They'll give classes on how small changes can help improve your home so that you do lower your bills. There's a lot of things on the BPU website, a lot of videos that teach about home efficiency and how you can improve your efficiency. So there are a lot of programs out there that we work on, and we will continue whenever the funds are available, that we're not just driving up more costs onto our existing customers.
Thank you, Jeff. Brett?
I think this is a great thing to invest in, with the caveat that it shouldn't come at the expense of your neighbors paying higher rates to do so. And again, to be a broken record, this is a tremendous area we could focus federal and state aid on. It's an opportunity to lower overall energy needs, to bring down what peak usage will be. It's a way to build resilience, again, as we look forward to the future of more extreme weather patterns. And having to be prepared for those times. So again, I come back to, we need to aggressively, energetically chase down every aid dollar that we possibly can. And this is one of the great uses that we might be able to make of that would allow us to do this work without needing to raise anyone's rates.
Thank you, Brett. Let's go ahead and go with CC.
Can you repeat the question for me, Gary? Please.
I will not, but I will have John repeat it for you.
Yeah, the question is, should the BPU help customers pay for energy efficiency upgrades that could bring down their energy bills? So insulation upgrades, smart thermostats, LED lights, things like that.
I think that BPU has an obligation to invest into the community that invest into them. There would be no BPU without the people. So absolutely, I feel like BPU should do a whole lot more for they call them customers, but ratepayers, I call them owners because that's what they are. But they should do a lot more for the people who own and invest into their company or that company, period, our company. I feel like they should do whatever they need to do to assist, especially the ones who are most vulnerable, as we call them, our elderly people and stuff like that. They can't hardly pay their month-to-month bill, let alone can they try to make these updates to their homes and things like that. So yes, absolutely. I think a program should be put in place where they collect money to help the elderly and other at-risk people, disabled people, to make these accommodations to their homes, period.
Thank you, Cece. Rose, you will be next.
Thank you. Great question. BPU actually facilitates weatherization programs through the East Central Kansas Economic Opportunity Corporation. So it's ECKAN, which works over, I believe, 13 counties in Kansas. Wyandotte is one of them, to assist low income, vulnerable folks with weatherization of their homes. And we often talk, do I think BPU should do that? I agree with Brett that, again, I can't hammer it enough. We have to aggressively seek and secure state, federal funding, that we are in an unprecedented time to bring dollars like that into KCK, into Wyandotte County. And we have been successful, the utility has in the past, at receiving grant dollars, receiving low interest loans, things like that, to assist with infrastructure needs. But there's other money out there. There's other programs out there that, between the BPU and unified government, there's a whole heck of a lot of outside consultants that are used for lots of things. I'd love to see us actually secure an outside consultant that this is what they do, is go find and get grant money. Again, this money is out there specifically designed for a community that looks like ours.
Thank you, Rose. Stevie?
Thank you, Gary. I agree wholeheartedly with Brett and Rose regarding seeking after those dollars. As was stated also by Jeff on the website, they do have information, and Rose stated about the program that is available for those who are needing those type of services. An audit of homes, particularly those who have difficulty paying their bills, an audit of their energy usage. But I still say that not only those who are vulnerable, but I always equate the scenario of a parent and their children. Parents, their kids, they don't pay the bills, so they, are kind of careless with their water and electricity usage. Such as I believe is the same with the unified government. I don't think we are as efficient as we could be with our water and electric usage, and I think we should also be audited as far as our use, because that's what we're paying for, and the customers are paying for that as well. So I think both of those things together will help us to find a more cohesive way of addressing the costs that we're paying for our utility bills.
All right, that is it for all the questions. Thank you all so much for answering them. Thank you to the community members who submitted questions. I will read a couple of them just because you all sent them in. Again, candidates, please use your platforms to answer some of these questions. I'll send them out on email again. But also I will give you all 2 minutes. You have a 1 minute closing, but feel free to use that extra minute however you'd like. There's a bunch of questions that I'm going to share with you all, but one of them says, from the Zoom room, it says, our diverse populations include many people who do not have permission to be here and do not have identification documents. Many immigrants have their documents confiscated by ICE, yet the BPU requires ID with local address. At least that is what we were told when a Venezuelan family with only a national identity card and an expired passport applied for services. They were denied. We were told inconsistent policies by BPU lawyers, CEO, and other employees. The lawyer told us that they could go to the Mexican consul for an ID, and when we pointed out that they weren't Mexican, they said that they were out of luck. What would you do to fix problems like this for many of our residents? Some of the questions that came from our Facebook include, what are the disadvantages or advantages of privatizing the BPU? Who at the UG is responsible for adding and raising fees via the BPU? What person, what department? Please don't ignore this question. I didn't write that, they wrote that. And then the other part says, or the other question from Facebook says, nepotism is high at BPU. What can you do to stop this practice within the company? Again, I'll make sure to send these out to all the candidates so that you have them use your platforms to answer them. I'll also give each of you an extra minute on your concluding statements to answer any of these questions as you'd like. But with that being said, I will start with Brett.
Thanks, Gary. Sorry about that. I was still writing down a couple of those questions. I want to start with real quick running through some of those questions that were asked before I jump into closing. On the first one, no one should be, quote, out of luck when it comes to having access to water and electricity in our community. This is a public utility. It's been said many times, and I echo it again. We work for the people who own it, and everyone in our community deserves access to water and electricity. We need it. There are folks trying to get connected with perhaps less common backgrounds and credentials. We need to move heaven and earth to find out a way to get them signed up appropriately. There was a question about privatizing. I think we have a tremendous opportunity as owners of a public utility, as potential board members of a public utility, that this should work better for our citizens, for our ratepayers, for our residents, for the owners of this utility than a privatized entity. But it's incumbent upon the leadership to make sure that it's functioning that way. And that has to be a top priority. And lastly, I think the question was, who in BPU is responsible for raising the rates? The board is responsible ultimately for setting those rates. We've heard from the two incumbents here on how they voted on that, but ultimately the buck stops with the board, and those decisions are made with the 6 people there. I will certainly have a focus on trying to keep rates as low as possible, as low as we can responsibly make them, and also for making sure that the burden of those rates are not carried the largest by our lowest earners or our fixed income folks. There are a lot of great policies that were discussed tonight that we could use to alleviate some of those concerns. Again, there is federal and state aid money available. We need to be going after. If you elect me, I will be a tireless advocate for you as a resident and for the BPU.
Thank you, Brett. I'll go to Jeff.
So Rose pointed out earlier that the policy committee, which I sat on also, will be looking at the customer service policies. This will be a great opportunity to look at some of these concerns, some of these items that our citizens have brought up about the customer service policies at the BPU, and make those changes that are more appropriate for the changing times. Understand a lot of the policies were written many years ago. Things have changed drastically over the last decade, and we need to make sure our policies are updated to represent the current times. As far as privatizing, I can tell you as a cost analyst, I do the pricing at a very large manufacturing company. We have 3 buckets. We have labor, we have materials, we have profit. That is what you will find at Evergy also. But what you find at the BPU, labor, materials. There is no profit because the dollars that are brought in go back into our community. That is the advantage of having a municipal utility, is that the dollars are invested back into the properties inside of our city limits, and that's the way it should stay. I want to thank everyone who took the time to attend tonight's forum. My wife and I have invested our entire lives in this city, so failure is not an option. I challenge every one of you to find a way to help move our city forward. We all have a skill that can be used for good. I've chosen to use mine to help make our utility better and to create a brighter future. I ask for your support on November 7th to help me continue to drive change at the BPU. My name is Jeff Bryant, and it is an honor to be your 3rd District representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. That was Jeff Bryant and Brett Parker, both running for District 3. I'll pass it on to our at-large candidates. I'll start off with Rose and then go to Cece.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll echo the comments of some of the other participants tonight that ultimately the board is the one who we approve or reject the rates that are proposed by our staff. We approve or reject the fees that are proposed by our staff. Not all fees, but most fees. I've told you guys we are taking up the customer service policy review again in the coming weeks. Please pay attention to that. If you have input, reach out to a board member. Not every board member sits on the policy committee, but I do. So my information's out there, it's widely known. With respect to assisting potential residents who, may not be able to get relief from the Mexican consulate. Venezuela is a different situation, certainly, but as I think Jeff just pointed out, we have some policies in place that are pretty outdated, and certainly that policy does not reflect the greater diversity that is in this community, and we have to be better. We have to do better. So we have to make sure, A, that we're all on the same page, and B, that we can go out there and assist these customers when they come in seeking, to sign up for service with BPU. I'd ask for your vote on November 7th. I have a record that has proven that I've stood with the people of this community during my first term, and I intend to do nothing but continue that if I'm elected to a second term. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Cece?
Hello. I'm going to attempt to answer the question. So the illegal immigrants, I think that any form of identification with your name on there should be sufficient enough for a public utility. As long as you live in Wyandotte County or stay in Kansas City, Kansas, you should be able to get your lights on in your home. The Unified Government Commission Board is the one responsible for presenting the charter or the vote for the people for the pilot fee. The people are responsible to go to the unified government and say enough is enough. Take the pilot fee off the bill. I don't care how you do it. You need to get it off because the people voted it in, and they need to get it off. The nepotism at BPU and the unified government, I suggest the people look on the EEOC or Equal Employment website and look up what remedies you can do to address the nepotism here in Wyandotte County, because there are legal ways for those things to happen. I've also looked at that because I thought that it was outstanding, the amount of people with the same last name working at BPU. I won't call that last name. I want to reiterate this as many times as I can. The power lies with the community members, not with these boards, not with the UG, but it lies with you. The only way that they can continue to make these decisions is because you don't get up and address them. You have to get up collectively as a community and tell them, I don't want this, or I do want this. And until you do, they will continue to do what they want to do.
Thank you, Cece. That was Cece Harlan and Rose Mulvaney Henry, both running for at-large district. And our last one, Reverend Stevie Wakes, running for District 1 in District 1.
Thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity to be on this particular panel of candidates. But I think it's very important that we continue to make our customer service beneficial for the customers within our city, in spite of the nationality. But that we make sure that our customer service policies reflect the diversity of our community. I believe that we need to work on those deposit fees. The policy needs to be reviewed regarding the customer service, the shut-off fees, all those fees, reconnection fees. I think that's something that we really need to review and make it beneficial for not only the BPU, but also the customer. When you talk about privatizing, this is something that has come up many times. I will not be in favor of us privatizing something that we own because I believe that the cost would be more. And certainly if you look at what it would cost us, it would cost us much more to try to privatize the public utility rather than maintain those dollars within our own jurisdiction. As far as my candidacy, again, as you know, those three things that I mentioned to you about communication, collaboration, and accountability with the UGA and the Board of Public Utilities, that we maintain those meetings that were stopped for a long time, that we continue those and that we maintain that communication, that we improve efficiencies with our water and electricity with the unified government, and that we remove that pilot off of our bills. Those are the three things that I continue to strive to do as a member of the board, if so elected. So I ask for your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, community members that are watching on our Zoom and on our Facebook Live. Again, thank you so much for joining the Kansas City Beacons, Kansas City, Kansas Board of Public Utilities Candidate Forum. Once again, we want to thank our sponsors, Reach Healthcare Foundation and the Health Forward Foundation. So with that being said, if you want to stay up to date with the Kansas City Beacon and continuing the topics that we are covering on the election, on BPU, on local government and community issues, you can sign up for our newsletter. Thank you all for the engagement and the participation. We appreciate your support of independent, locally controlled journalism here in Kansas and Missouri. Folks who couldn't be live with us today can also watch this on Facebook. They can refer to this video throughout Facebook. We'll be sending it out in our newsletter. We'll be sending it out multiple ways. You'll possibly see an article coming out from tonight. You'll see a transcription of tonight's forum. And so today's event was powered by our Beacon members, and we couldn't be any more grateful. So if you like what you saw today and you thought it was helpful and useful, I would like to invite you all, or anyone that is watching, to become a member of the Beacon for $5 a month. You can support the Beacon and the work that we do anytime by just going to the beacon.media/donate. And we'll be sure to put the link in the chat. And to our guests, thank you again for being part of the conversation today to ensure that voters have the opportunity and the accessibility to hear from voters. I also want to give a shout out to our partner organizer of this event, Churches United for Justice. Thank you all so much for the help, for the participation, and for the work. With that being said, see you all at the polls. Good luck, candidates, and go out and vote. Thank you. Bye-bye.